Welcome to Itinerary podcast. This is Dishika and this is Sadman. Today we are having as a guest a very interesting person. We have Michelle Arbir, who is currently working as a supply teacher, but previous to that, she has been working as a tour guide in Savannah, Haunted Savannah Tours and Sorrel Weed House. And now we are going to listen from her about her experiences in Savannah.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
We're fantastic. So, Michelle, how is Georgia? Like, how's Georgia in general?
Georgia is lovely. It is very lovely. The weather gets a little crazy up near Atlanta, up here, down near Savannah. It was a little bit more stable and stayed a little bit more to the warmer side, but Georgia is actually very beautiful.
Great, great. So, how popular do you think Georgia is as a tourist spot or a tourist place? How many tourists go there in general?
Oh, well, our tourism is really booming here.
Yeah.
Very, very much booming. They just had that on the news the other day about the tourism booming, even a lot of people moving to the area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great, great. So, what places do you think are very famous in Georgia? Like Atlanta, I know for sure that Atlanta is very famous. And what are the places are, famous in Georgia?
Okay, so Atlanta is very, very famous. It has a lot of great perks, a lot of things to do. The North Georgia mountains are absolutely beautiful. Dahlonega area, Helen is a beautiful area. I have an adopted daughter who has never been there, and I told her she has German history. I said, we need to go to Helen. It's a German town. It's like you're in Germany. Beautiful spot. Have you ever heard of do you remember or heard of the Cabbage Patch doll?
Yes. Do you remember, right?
Okay, so the Cabbage Patch doll in Cleveland, Georgia, they have their own. It's a hospital. It's the Cabbage Patch Hospital.
Okay.
It's kind of bizarre. It's not for everybody, but you actually see a tree give birth to a Cabbage Patch doll. And they have a hospital there, and you can buy a Cabbage Patch doll. Some people don't like the whole tree, doll thing, and some of us think, hey, that's kind of neat. So the North Georgia mountains are really beautiful.
All right. So, what are the places you have gone into, like from a vacation perspective or tourism perspective? Have you visited these places in Georgia?
Yes. We used to actually vacation a real lot in Helen, Georgia when my girls were little. We mostly went there in the summertime because you can go down the river and you can go tubing. And so we would rent a cabin up there. We would walk around all town to the shops, and then we would go tubing. Some years were better than others for tubing. It really depended on the flow of the water, but Helen is beautiful. We loved vacationing there.
Great, great. So do you think that these places are equally, vacation friendly for people out of Georgia as for people in Georgia, living in Georgia?
Yes, very much so. The only place I would say, Atlanta, the North Georgia mountains, that's all very family orientated. Savannah is family orientated, but to me, it seems more for the adult to go to. There's the beaches there, but as far as things to do with the kids, if you like bringing your kids to history, to the Wormslow Estate, to Fort McAllister, Fort Pulaski, and the downtown shops, that's all fun, but not all the kids have the interest in the history aspect. It really kind of depends on the child. When I did tours there, I had kids who asked more questions than the adults, and then I had kids who were bored. that I had to kind of change it up and say, ooh, did you know this happened here at this hotel? You know, and kind of pull them in, you know.
Yeah.
But Atlanta for sure, very family, or there's so much to do with family in the Atlanta area.
So what about Savannah? Savannah is really popular for its architecture, especially
Oh,
the
yes.
Greek revival architecture, and also
Yep.
for its history. It has a really rich history. So how much tourists does it attract?
Oh, a lot. And I really couldn't give you a figure.
No,
In the
we
winter,
just
That's fine.
it is a lot. They had actually at one point in time, I don't know if they're still discussing it, deepening the port in Savannah so they could bring cruise ships in, kind of like Jacksonville, Florida does. But I don't know, you know, there was some controversy with doing all that. I know the port has been widened and deepened because that's where all the ships come in, but there is so much tourism, more so in your spring and summer months. The winter is you get your snowbirds. You get all the people from up north coming down, probably going to Florida, stopping in Savannah. And yeah. So the winter is,
you actually
you know,
have a
pretty
lot of
dead.
outside people coming in instead of the locally
Oh,
people.
yes.
Locally people are also as much interested as the outside tourists.
You know, I don't think I had as much local people because when we moved there, you know, when we first moved there, I was a tourist. You know, I could spend my days, you know, downtown. I was do a tour. I would get a book. I would read. That's just me. I was fascinated with Savannah from the moment I went there with my daughter on a 5th grade field trip. And after that, I just kept saying to the husband, we're going to have to move there. We're going to have to move there. And so we did. And so much to do. It's kind of a disappointment. The locals don't do as much because I met so many. Oh, I've never been there. I've never been there. I'm like, wait a second, you've never been there. If you have relatives come to visit in Savannah, you can take a trolley tour with them for free. All you have to do is show your driver's license. I did that many a times when I had relatives come to visit, you know, and I kind of, after a while, ended up being their tour guide. And then eventually I did finally move into ghost tours. I had always wanted to work at the Sorrel Weed House. I've just been drawn to it. Working on a book and a podcast on the house. And eventually I got a job working there, and I did historical daytime tours there. And I learned a lot. I would go and visit all the other houses there. Honestly, that was probably one of my most favorite things, is the architecture. The story and the history is awesome. And so many of those houses each have their own story. And they're just beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay, so before we hear more about the Sorrel Weed House, we would like to know about the tourist places in Savannah. Like what's beside the haunted tourist spots do we have popular among the tourists?
Okay, so you have Riverwalk. The Riverwalk, it's grown. I haven't been back in probably about a year. But I need to go back down to the Historical Society again anyway, so that's a good excuse. But the Riverwalk is amazing. It's just so pretty. You can see the huge cargo ships coming in. There's all kinds of shops. Make sure you hit the sweet shops. Most of them give out little samples of, I always had a friend, some kind of pecan, like little peanut butter brittle. Peanut butter brittle, that's what it was. I always had a friend, make sure you get some peanut butter, you know, eat a piece when you go by. Walking around downtown in all the squares in itself is very interesting. Broughton Street is amazing. It's got all kinds of shops and restaurants. Oh, That's kind of a hard one because there are so many unique restaurants there.
Mhm.
The one place I always told everybody to go and try and eat, you have to have cash. They only take cash, and you go there for lunch, and that's Mrs. Wilkes.
Mrs.
Mhm.
Wills.
Mrs. Wilkes, yes,
Yeah.
it's a sit down. It's like a buffet. It's a family. You could be there in line, and I could be in there in line, and we might sit at the same table.
Uh-huh.
And I always told people only take a little bit of everything because there's so much. You know, you
Right.
see this, you want to take a lot, but there's still more coming. So that was one of the favorite places to go. There's several houses you can take a tour of.
Mhm.
The Green Meldron House is absolutely beautiful. There
Yeah.
is a church there. It's the oldest Gothic
Mm.
Jewish or a synagogue. Amazing, beautiful. The churches, St. John the Baptist there,
Right.
just beautiful. So
Okay.
those are some of the highlights. Oh, and if you're in downtown Savannah,
Yeah.
you have to go to the cemetery that's downtown. That one is just absolutely beautiful. And if you're on the outskirts of town, Bonaventure Cemetery, very interesting. There's a gentleman there, Shannon Scott. He does tours there. I wouldn't recommend anybody but him. He's awesome. He knows his stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think that, so these are the places that you recommend going in Savannah, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So about the downtown, like how safe is Savannah for tourists in general tourists, and how safe is it for, tourists of all races and all, ethnicities? So could you shed some light on that?
I haven't, really lived down there in a while, but I still have friends there, and it's safe. The police
Yeah.
are out, especially in your downtown area. Everybody is out and about. The police are. There's a big police presence in the downtown area.
Yeah.
I used to do tours late at night. I would be done with a tour at midnight. And
Right.
now, Grant, I always parked my car close to where I would end my tour,
Mhm.
which was usually where it started, but I would usually try to park my car close to there so I wouldn't have to, but I never really worried. I never had any problems. The downtown area, I would say, is very safe.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so that's great to hear that it's really safe. I guess it's also safe for females and it's also safe for solo travelers, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And because you also have downtown, you have SCAD, which is the Savannah College of Arts.
Yeah.
okay.
So you have a lot of students down there. So, SCAD even has their own campus police. So you have students downtown at nighttime walking around alone too. So yes.
Okay. So, you previously said about visiting cemeteries, right?
Oh, I love old cemeteries. I found one
Okay.
yesterday up here in Georgia.
Okay, so from my small research, I found that this is part of dark tourism, something called dark
Yep.
tourism. Do you have
Yes.
any idea about that? Would you introduce this to us or our audience?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You're really, this is awesome. I'm so glad you asked this question. My professor at Armstrong State, now Georgia State University, he's a professor of sociology, Mr. Ned.
Okay.
I took a sociology on tourism class when I
Oh,
was in school down there, and I did a whole paper on dark tourism. I even gave
wow.
I did, and I even gave my classmates a tour. We didn't I don't think we did a real late night tour, but I gave my classmates a tour.
Okay.
There is this fascination with, you have your ghosts,
Okay.
you have your cemetery, you have all these stories. And then think about where all these stories come together.
Hmm.
It all comes from the history
Right.
of what happened there. Oh, I had my hotel in my name. I had a hotel in my name up here, and I just drew a blank.
Oh, it's okay.
Well,
That's
one of the hotels down on Broughton Street was a hospital during the
Okay.
Civil War. There's said to be rooms there that are haunted.
Okay.
There, people go there, they stay there, they want to be, in this room or that room. They hope to get something. The tourism for ghost tours, very, very, very popular.
Okay.
Very popular. That is very popular. I don't know if it's just this day and time that people are so interested in this. I have to say, I've always been interested, you could say, in the dark tourism. I've always, when our family goes on a vacation, if there's a ghost tour, oh, we're going on it. If there's an old cemetery, I'm going to find it. We're going to go. We can be in the car, and my grandson will say, Mimi, look, there's a cemetery. Oh, good boy. And my husband will just roll his eyes. But I also had experiences, as a child, as a teenager, that I believed in ghosts. So when I did ghost tours, I had people who were like, oh, this is all nonsense. And then I had people who wanted more, so it just all depends on the person, but the dark tourism is very, very popular. Colonial Cemetery is the cemetery, it just came to me, the cemetery downtown. That one is very, very old. That has some unique history to it. That you cannot go in there at night. That's going to be going in there during the daytime, and that's because of vandalism on years gone past. But there's headstones in there that have been moved from the Union soldiers, some who had the dates changed. One where it looks like somebody was born before they died, because the Union soldiers changed the dates on the graves. So, little interesting things like that, I think, is kind of what draw people into that, having that fascination with that kind of thing.
So, is visiting Auschwitz, you do know Auschwitz, or the Second World War cemeteries, or the, gas chambers, and those
Yes.
places? Yeah. So is this, visiting those places, is this also a part of dark tourism?
Oh, yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
It can also follow under your history, because there is so much history. That's and again, that's where your dark history and your dark tourism comes from, is from unfortunate events, really, if you think about it. I just thought of that hotel, the Marshall House. When they built the Marshall House, here's an interesting story when you talk about the gas chambers and stuff. When they built the Marshall House, it was a hotel, all these fancy things, that was the place to stay when you went to Savannah. Here comes the Civil War, and it's a hospital. Right. Well, at one point in time, back in the 1990s, somebody came in to remodel the Marshall House. What did they find underneath? Legs, arms, because when they were doing surgery there, they would hack off your arm or leg, and they just toss them, and they just boarded or whatever over it. Right. The running joke, though, if you like humor, the running joke about the Marshall House is it costs an arm and a leg to stay there. Get it? Because that's what they found underneath. Yeah. So it's stories like that draw people in, to that.
What kind of experiences did people get from visiting that hotel? Is there any paranormal activities?
There is said to be paranormal activity in there. I never got to stay there, because it costs an arm and a leg. But it is on my bucket list to go and stay, right. go and stay there. Yeah. I had my own experiences in the Sorrel Weed House there, but for the hotels, you hear stories that so-and-so experience this. Then you have all your ghost shows that have been down there. And I
Right.
think the Marshall House, I'm sure had to have been on one of those shows. So, you know, people say here or there that they see something at night. There was one house on Abercorn Street that people would take pictures of. It's since been sold. I don't know if anybody gets any more pictures. In the window was a picture of a little girl that was
Mhm.
said to have been locked up in that room because she went and played with the public school children, and her father didn't allow her back in 17 or 1800,
Okay.
to play with the peasant children. So
Mhm.
she died in that room sweltering to death. I don't know that that one was really true. As far as I ever researched, I couldn't find that to be
Right.
true, but people,
Yeah.
find that to be interesting.
Interesting, yes.
I guess
Yeah.
that's the part of the human culture or how the society evolves, right? From visiting those places, we can get a glimpse of how the society evolves from time to time. Like these stories came from something, right? There must be
Right.
something. So the society was like that before, and from there we evolved like this. This place evolved like this, and I guess that's the essence that people try to get from there. Is it that?
I think so. I agree. I would have to agree. Even for myself, I would have to agree on that. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
mean,
could,
the
could you
first time I went down there.
yeah,
Yeah.
could you introduce us the concept of haunted tourism or haunted tours and how these are, I guess these are related with dark tourism and just
Yes.
introduce us to the whole concept of haunted tours and how popular are they throughout US or throughout the world, and what other places are famous for haunted tours?
Okay. So Savannah is one.
Yeah,
New Orleans.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hands.
New Orleans
That's
is very
actually,
popular.
yeah.
yes, that's actually on my list to go there this year because I found out from Atlanta to New Orleans, I can take the train for
Yeah.
like $40 one way, which is really almost, that's cheaper
Massive.
than buying
That's
the gas
massive.
to drive it.
Yeah.
So that's very inexpensive. So that's on my places to go. One of my daughters has a friend there. We want to go there. New Orleans, St. Augustine. I've done tours in St. Augustine.
Okay.
Um, Philadelphia, I know, does haunted tours. I'm gonna go there this year because I have my daughter's best friend. She lives up in Philadelphia,
Right.
and you think about the history, the U.S., the Liberty Bell. So that
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. That's my thing. I love to travel, to go to those places, and I'll research it and I want to know. And I remember I had gone to Savannah so many times before my husband had, and we went on a carriage ride, which was so much fun. But I already knew all the stories, and my husband turned to me and said, "Would you let the tour guide be the tour guide?" But I
Right.
had researched it and I knew so much.
Hmm.
St. Augustine has ghost tours. I know that. I've done
Hmm.
one there. Philadelphia. I know there's some like in your colonial Virginia kind of area.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Atlanta, I've never taken one, and I should, but Atlanta does have a ghost tour. And
Okay.
all the years, I was born and raised up north outside of Chicago,
Right.
Hmm.
but I've lived more than half of my life down here in the South. But ideally, I've never taken a ghost tour of Atlanta. I just never real thought of.
Hmm.
To me, it's not as, it doesn't have that ambiance that Savannah does, that
Hmm.
New Orleans does, that St. Augustine does.
Hmm.
Atlanta's a little bit more modernized these days, and I don't know that it gives off the
Hmm.
impression of ghost, or so I
Yeah.
guess I'll put that on my list. I should take a ghost tour because I did recently read an article saying that Atlanta was more haunted than even Savannah, because
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of history here. There's
Right.
a whole lot of more area. Atlanta is bigger.
Hmm.
Think about Sherman coming through and burning everything down.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in Savannah, we saw that there are several, tours,
Yes.
a place that you worked in. What was the name that you where you worked in?
That's Savannah.
Haunted Savannah tours. So there are
Yes.
other organizations that give out these tours, right?
Yes, there are. There are several.
Yeah.
I always, I mean, I worked for Savannah Tour, so I'll always be,
Yeah.
a little favoritism towards them. But there are other good, really good tours. I know other tour guides down there that
Mhm.
are just, are good tours. I always tell, go on like TripAdvisor, research it, see what the reviews are, read the reviews, see, uh, what and compare. Also when you're doing a haunted tour, if you've already been around the city, think about, okay, there's so many different tours. The 8 o'clock tour will be different than the 10 o'clock tour because your 10 o'clock tour is going to have more adult themed stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So some of maybe your darker stuff.
Yeah.
So if you have, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. What do you think about giving these ghost tours or haunted tours during the daytime, or should we go for the nighttime tours?
Okay, so your haunted Savannah tours, all of your ghost tours will only run at night.
Okay.
They don't run during the day.
Okay.
During the day, you can walk around Savannah. They have a great guide. We're in the process of remodeling a lake house we bought, and all my books are packed. But there's this simple little, it's maybe $10. It's a Savannah walking tour.
Okay.
You can even have ear pods. It'll give you numbers. There's a map. You can do it that way. The other really fun thing that I always loved to do with family when I was there was a trolley tour. And I like to do the trolley tour where you could get off. You could get on and off at the different stops. So you arrive at St. John the Baptist. Oh, they have nothing going on. You can go in there and see the cathedral. And then you can come back outside. You see Lafayette Square. And then you get back on the trolley and you go to the next spot. Sometimes it's good to take the trolley all the way around the first time. Okay, make note, I want to stop there, there, and there. Then you go back around, you make those stops, and you get on and off. So that's kind of how you do your daytime tour, but you really won't find any ghost tours at night. On some of the tours, you might get a little ghost tidbits, but you won't get what you would get in the evening.
Right. So basically the walking haunted tours, those happens at night, right?
Yes. And there are trolley tours. Some people still would like that, but maybe they can't do all the walking. So you can do a trolley tour. That's a ghost tour. I think some of the horse and carriages might. Here's one. I did this for fun. I don't know how they are. I haven't looked at their reviews, but there's a hearse tour. You ride in a hearse. Yes.
Yeah.
That was fun. My best friend came down with her son for his senior trip.
Yeah.
She wanted something fun to do. She didn't have a lot of money to spend. She came down, stayed at our house. We did the hearse tour.
Right.
It was fun.
Great. Okay, so
that was an experience. The first time and last time I can say I was in a hearse.
Okay. Oh, really? Can you give me an itinerary of visiting Savannah, for like 2-3 days? What are the places that I want to see? Or how can I see all the, how do I take all the haunted, tourist places?
Okay. So your first day there, you might just want to look around the city. Your first day there might be a really good day to take a trolley tour.
Okay.
Take it around one time, listen to everything. Maybe, I like that. I want to see that. The next time you go around, you get off at that stop, you check it out. Like St. John's Cathedral, absolutely gorgeous. Don't miss it. The River Walk. The River Walk, you could spend a good half a day on just looking at all the shops.
Right.
That might be something to do on your first day. That might be something you want to do on your last day. because
Mhm.
that's where you're going to get a lot of your souvenirs,
Right.
you know. So that might be something. Just depends on the person. You know, some of us like to go every day and get a souvenir every day.
Right. Right.
So on your second day is maybe when you want to plan if you want to take a tour.
Mhm.
What house do I want to tour? There's the Green Meldron house.
Mhm.
There's the Thomas house, Owen Thompson house. Beautiful,
Right.
absolutely beautiful. Another big attraction to visit in Savannah is the Mercer house.
Mhm.
That house is famous for the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Mhm.
Some of the movie was actually even filmed there.
Okay.
I actually, in my experience and living in Savannah, met someone who was in the book
Mhm.
and in the movie. He played himself. He was Jerry the hairdresser.
Right.
That was really neat encounter. So yeah, on your second day, that's maybe when you want to do that kind of thing. That second night. Now, if you're just going for like 3 days, that second night is going to be when you want to take your ghost tour if you're not taking it on your first night.
Okay.
So check around, see what you want to do, you know, what do you want to do, maybe what you want to see, what you want to hear. There's
Okay.
a lot of commonalities in all the tours, but yet there's some that are not, that you will get different things. There's Blue Orb Tours has a zombie tour.
Mhm.
Haunted Savannah Tours has an adult one. I think
Mhm.
Scandals and Scoundrels and Scandals, off the top of
Right.
my head. That was a fun one. That's an adult only one. But I
Mhm.
have to say, even if you're not into, just because, let's say you go to Savannah and you're just on a trip, you and your husband,
Right.
don't necessarily think you need to take the 10 o'clock tour because it's an adult tour. The
Mhm.
8 o'clock tour has different information that actually might be more interesting to you.
Okay.
Like on my 8 o'clock tour, we used to go by the Marshall House,
Okay.
which is the hotel where they did the Civil War and they cut off the arms and legs and just chucked them on the floor.
Mhm.
So that's a neat place to go
Okay.
and hear the stories from there. You know, they all kind of have their little different thing. Most people who lived in Savannah wouldn't recommend the hearse tour.
Okay.
It
Why?
doesn't always have the hearse tour. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
ride in a hearse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I told you, I did that. It doesn't always get the best reviews, but here's my thing. Maybe you're there for a bachelor party, you're there with the
Mhm.
girls, just whatever. I thought it was just a fun tour. You can go back home and say, man, I was in a hearse and I lived to tell about it, you know,
Mhm.
because the next time it's not going to be, be that way. It's just
Right.
something kind of fun to put in there, you know.
Yeah.
So it's something to take in. You're not going to get as good of a tour, I don't think, or as maybe as much information because you are in the hearse and you are driving.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit faster paced than you would on your walking tour.
Okay. So
So,
I'm taking the 8 o'clock tour. After that, I'm taking the 10 o'clock tour. What's next?
well, after that, you're probably going to be ready for bed. Um, there will be some local bars that will still be open,
Mhm.
but then your next day, let's say that's your third day,
Mhm.
that's when I really say before you leave, take the time and walk some squares.
Okay.
Walk some of the Savannah squares. Chippewa Square is beautiful.
Mhm.
Chippewa Square is also where Forrest Gump was filmed.
Mhm.
Off of one of those squares is Jenny's restaurant from the movie.
Right.
There are so many movies that get filmed there. But there's so many. Pulaski Square is where the Mercer House is. Absolutely beautiful. All of them are. Lafayette Square is right by the St. John's Cathedral.
Mhm.
I always recommend to go in there. It doesn't matter what your religion is. The church is beautiful.
Mhm.
And actually is almost a church on every square.
Right.
So there's squares over on Pulaski Square, where the Mercer Williams house, you will find the Gothic synagogue. Amazing. Been in there a couple of times. Amazing. Those are the kind of things you really want to take in.
Okay.
Some of the houses. Broughton Street is nice. It's a lot of shopping. It's more upscale shopping, but it gives you that old time feel. That's one of the nice things of Broughton Street.
Right.
And definitely hit up River Street and hit up the candy shops.
So now, we've had the 3 days tour. So what is the budget? How much do I need to give this 3-day tour?
So
Right.
your tours on average, depending how many you're going to take, your tours are going to cost you anywhere from $20 to $30.
Suppose that I'm taking a family of 5.
So, yeah. So, that's what, if you're, say you budget $30, it's $30 a person times 5. That's going to be $150 in tours.
Yeah.
Plus tip your tour guide. Always remember to tip if you had a good tour.
Yes.
If you had a good tour. If you didn't have a good tour, they weren't doing, you weren't getting, I've not given tips. Everybody's kind of different, or you give a little something, but tip your tour guide based on how you feel they did. So for a family of 5, you're going to spend $150 to go on a ghost tour. Now, you can take a daytime tour for your trolley and do your on and off, take it around. You have a family of 5. That, let's just say, because they run from $13 to $36, let's go in the middle at $25. So 5 times 5 at 25, that's 250. So, yeah, I know. That's about what it's going to cost you to do your tours. Your houses, if you're going to tour a house, you're going to pay from, I'm pretty sure, about $20 to $30 a person to tour a house.
Right.
I know that kind of sounds expensive, but having worked in a historical home, there's a lot of upkeep. Now, do you want to talk hotels?
Yes. So where to stay and how much would that cost?
Okay. If you're going to stay downtown, it's going to cost a lot.
Okay.
And you're going to pay anywhere from $200 a night and up. I don't really think you'll find a hotel under that. If you do, I still think you'll be okay, but it's going to cost you a whole lot more to stay downtown. Now, I have stayed in the
Airbnb. What about Airbnb? Yeah.
Airbnb, I was just going to go to Airbnb. Depending on how many there are of you, Airbnb is a really good choice. You might be able to save a little bit there. You want to bring more family members. I've stayed in Airbnb when I went, and it maybe cost me $50 a night because I was just staying not like in the heart of the downtown squares, but maybe just a little bit off the beaten path.
Right.
And it was just a room. And that worked perfect for me because I was just there to do research. So Airbnb is a good choice.
Right.
But if you want to save a little bit more money, most people go and stay out by the airport in Pooler, or in Richmond Hill.
Okay.
And Pooler, if you're interested, you got your outlet shopping. But that's pretty much it. If you go out to Richmond Hill and stay, you have I think it's Fort McAllister.
Okay.
So yeah, because Fort Pulaski is more towards Tybee Island. So I think you have Fort McAllister there. And that's a place of interest, really neat to go to. Those are your options. Out there, you're going to find your $100 a night or maybe cheaper hotels.
Okay. So how much is the Airbnb's cost?
So that really kind of depends where you stay and how much you want. I've seen them go from $75 a night on up. It
Mhm.
really depends. I've seen $500 a night, but
Wow.
you're staying in one of those beautiful
Yeah, yeah.
homes that have been redone down there, you
Hmm.
know. So there's one in particular I really want to stay in. I got to
Okay.
save for that one.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah.
So, what if I wanted to do a 4 to 5 days itinerary in Atlanta? Then what could I see there in Atlanta for a 4 or 5 days itinerary?
Okay, 4 to 5 days. Wow. I
Mhm.
haven't lived here. I don't know if I would visit for 4 to 5 days.
Okay, so
But
what?
no.
How long do you
So
recommend it? Same for 2 or 3 days?
yeah, I would say 3 or 4 days. I think in
Okay,
3 or 4 days, I think 4 or 5 days in Atlanta might be
it's
a
a
little much.
bit too much.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's a beautiful, there's all the stadiums, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but unless you're going to a sporting event, that's really not of interest. The downtown area, Centennial Park, is beautiful. And
So
there's
I
a
start
Ferris
with
wheel.
the downtown part.
I would start with the downtown
Okay,
area.
okay.
Centennial Park, that area is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's even a huge Ferris wheel that you can
Right.
ride. You can
Mm-hmm.
ride on there. Um, the Children's Museum is in that area. You also have the Georgia Aquarium. That's
Mm-hmm.
nice. The
Right.
Georgia Aquarium is very nice.
Mm.
Um, let's see what else is right there. I got the Georgia. You can ride. You can rent scooters to get around down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm racking my brain over if there's anything particular, you know, in that area. I know the mart is there, but that's more for business people. They have different kinds of, from a women's show to jewelry shows there.
Right.
So your restaurants, there's so many restaurants to choose
Mm-hmm.
from.
Mm-hmm.
The Varsity is a very popular place to go. That's where you're going to get your greasy hot dogs, your greasy chili
Right.
dogs.
Right.
It's been around for a very long
So
time.
all of that place in one day?
You could probably do that in one day.
Okay.
Y-
So
Yeah, you could
what about the
do that.
next day? Where should I go?
Where should you go next?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
For
do
the
you
next
want
day
to?
or day two on in Atlanta.
Okay. So in and around Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain is absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful park. They have a laser show there.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have some old homes there. More not your Savannah type, but more your country
Right,
1700s
right,
homes that
right.
are on there. See, you can see what I get drawn to.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
that's yeah. Um, that's really pretty there. Depending
Mm-hmm.
what time of year you go there, you know, they also have a lake there. I've never been there at that time of the year, but Stone Mountain would probably take you a good portion of your day. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot to do there.
Right.
There's a lot to do there. Then on any other day in the area, there are so many. Um, if you want to hit up a state park, we have
Mm-hmm.
Sweetwater State Park. I happen to live out here near Red Mountain State Park by
Mm-hmm.
Lake Altoona. Absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's hiking there, there's boating up there, there's kayaking and all that up
Mm-hmm.
in up in that area. And that's only maybe about a 40-minute drive. So
Right.
that's not too bad. Um, other things to do and see in and around Atlanta.
So this is considered the second day. Now we are moving to third day.
The third day, I think I need more things in Atlanta. Well, okay. Little Five Points is a really nice area. You
Mm-hmm.
also have Atlantic Station has some shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have shows there. We also in the downtown area, you have the Center for Puppetry Arts.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that Atlanta offers a ghost tour. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they,
Okay.
I'm not sure. I would imagine there's got to be some kind of history tour that you could take
Mhm.
that I'll look into. I would probably, that would be something I would like to know. I've been to the Gone with the Wind house. There's in
Right.
downtown. I think that's might be somewhere near Little Five Points. Little Five Points is a nice little bit more upscale area.
Mhm, mhm.
And there's lots of shops and eateries. Another nice place to go in the downtown area is you could go to the Atlanta Zoo.
Mhm.
Is in downtown. Well, maybe on more of the outskirts of downtown, but Grant Park is there, absolutely beautiful. Another
Right.
park to go to is Piedmont Park.
Mhm.
Piedmont is a beautiful park to visit. So you have the Jimmy Carter
Mhm.
Library, and there's a park over there. There are a lot of parks in and around Atlanta, and I've seen and been to a few.
Mhm.
Growing up, we always went to Piedmont Park because my aunt and uncle lived in Atlanta, and they had a
Right.
house right off of Piedmont Park. Beautiful park just to sit and walk, enjoy the city. People
Right.
watch. People watching is always fun.
Right. So, for the 3 days, 3 days itinerary in Atlanta, how much would it cost? What should be my budget?
Because you're going to have to put a hotel in there, and depending where you
Yeah.
stay, downtown Atlanta is going to be about the same
Mm-hmm.
as staying in Savannah. It's going to
Right.
be expensive to stay in downtown Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to want to go a little bit more out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Anywhere I think you would hit off of I-75 for a hotel outside of the city,
Right.
you're gonna come in better. But I'm gonna say unless you come all the way out here by me, you're gonna spend maybe over $100 a night.
Okay.
So I would say budget $500 or more a night.
Mm. Okay.
Or I'm sorry, $500 or more for your stay. Anywhere
For
from
your
500
apartment
to
stay. Okay.
$1,000. Yeah, just it depends on the person and where you want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Going out to eat, I'm gonna say, depending how many people, I would budget around $3,000 or more.
Right.
You know, it's just gonna depend on what you want to do. Going to any of your parks
Mm-hmm.
is going to be free.
Okay.
If you go to the aquarium or the zoo, that's going to cost you. The zoo is going to be, I think the zoo is less expensive than the aquarium, but
Mm-hmm.
both of them equally amazing.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
So,
somewhere around.
so do I need to rent a car, or how do I travel from one place to another?
Okay, so if you're going to stay in the downtown area,
Mhm.
you probably don't need to rent a car. And depending on the hotel you stayed at,
Mhm.
you can have airports. They have a shuttle. They can come
Right.
get you. So they could have a shuttle, or you could take your Uber or your Lyft to your hotel.
Mhm.
If you're going to want to go out to other places, Stone Mountain, Red Top, Sweetwater, some of maybe your other museums. There's a lot of museums to see in Atlanta. You might want to rent a car.
Right.
So if you want to go outside of the city, you're going to want to rent a car.
So,
But otherwise, if you're in the downtown area, you can take public transportation. You can take the MARTA. We used to take the MARTA. I love the MARTA.
Mhm.
Or you can Uber and Lyft. A lot of people do that too. If you're not
Right.
going that far, it's not that expensive to go,
So,
to use
how
it.
much would it cost if I use the public transport versus how much would it cost if I rent the car for
You
both
probably,
Savannah or Atlanta?
depending on the going rate, you might be better off renting a car because it
Mm-hmm.
depends how many people you have. If you're renting a car for, $50 a day, it's been a while since I rented a car because I usually drive everywhere.
Yes.
But because I like to see the country.
Mhm.
Your public transportation, you can buy a pass with a whole bunch of trips, but I think your public transportation now is somewhere around $5
Mhm.
one way. So if you have a family of 5, you just spent $10 on a round trip, ticket. At
Right.
that point, you might want to rent a car. But then thinking about renting a car, you're going to have to find somewhere to park if you're
Mhm.
driving around the city, and you're going to pay for parking.
Okay.
So it's really kind of hard to say. I think it kind of comes down to what your preference is, or taking an Uber,
Right. Okay. So, what
Don't
about?
take a taxi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taxi are way more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about the nightlife in Savannah? Like, is
Oh,
there?
um, there's a lot of nightlife in Savannah, but it's in more of your busy seasons.
Mhm.
That's more in your busy season. There is. Down on River Street, you have a lot of bars that are open. You
Mhm.
have bands that'll come in and play. There is so if you want to get your nightlife in
Mhm.
and you want to get some ghosts in, you take a pub tour.
Right.
Okay. Now that I think about it, I don't think I ever got to take a pub tour. And I
Right.
always wanted to, and I actually had even talked about maybe learning to do the pub tours,
Mhm.
but I was always a little shy of the pub tours, because when you're doing a pub tour, there's going to be your adult only. You're
Mhm.
going from
Yes.
pub to pub, you're learning about the ghost stories that are in
Mhm.
some of the pubs, which there are, and you're also maybe having a drink.
Mhm.
So you know how people can maybe get. So let's just keep that in mind if you go to do a pub tour. That
Mhm.
was the reason why I never did any, because I heard of tour guides, saying so and so got belligerent, and I'm one to say, "You're done, you go." I'm not going to be nice.
Right.
But I've also heard they're fun, and you get a ghost tour in with it.
Right.
The
Right.
other thing in the nightlight to do is they have what is it? I'm drawing a blank, but it's a pedal. You
Okay.
pedal, and you pedal around, and it seats about 6 to 8 people. There might be ones that are bigger, and you pedal and drink while you're
Right.
going around, and they tell you
That's
stuff.
interesting.
And I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, you pedal. And that was
Right.
always neat. I always thought that was neat. And you can do that at night too. You can do
Okay.
that during
Okay.
the day, but that's very popular at night.
Mm-hmm. So, let's say I'm taking the walking ghost tour, I'm taking the ghost pub tour, and the hearse, as you said, that it does not have a really good review. So, if I were to compare all these ghost tours, so how would you review them? Like, I'll give you 2 minutes to compare each of them to
Ooh.
each other.
Okay, this is what I tell people. First, go on TripAdvisor, okay? Know what you want. Do you want to go in a house? If you want to maybe go in a house, you do one of the trolley tours that gets you in there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, look for your higher top rated tours. Those tours are going to be your Haunted Savannah tours, your Gentile and Bar tour, and Blue Orb has a zombie tour. He's even written a book.
Mhm.
And those are going to be those I have always found I favor those tours. They all
Mhm.
pretty much run about the same,
Right.
but they all maybe some of them may have common areas that they go to and talk to, but some of
Mhm.
them may have different areas.
Mhm.
So look at those areas. Does it go past Colonial Cemetery, and you want to go past there and you want to know more about Colonial Cemetery? That's
Mhm.
how I tell you to compare
Mhm.
to which tour you want to take. But
Mhm.
those would be my top tours to take, are Haunted Savannah tours, Gentile Bard. They also have a great one. And some of those tours nowadays actually have little headsets that you wear so
Mhm.
that you can hear everything.
Mhm.
I'm just going to tell you, if you're going to go there, it's going to be really busy during October. It's
Mhm.
Savannah, it's Ghost. during the summer, and St. Patrick's Day is off the chain. I've
Right.
experienced it. It's wonderful. But if you're not into a big crowd, don't go.
Yeah. Okay, so that was really interesting. So we are almost at the end of the podcast. So let me quickly finish it up. So audiences, if you've liked our show, do subscribe, like, share, and subscribe. And also, we have Michelle Arbir, who has given us so many interesting insights about these ghost hunting tours. She has been working as a ghost tour guide, which is really, really interesting. So if you want to know more about interesting traveling stories, traveling spots, most importantly, itineraries, do subscribe to us. We are Itinerary Podcast by Trip Pursuit. Bye, everyone.